right.
G.
Give a D. Give a D. I was in that thing.
All right, let's take a look at what's happened. As we said, the first couple minutes is very productive to just get a feel for what's happening. So we see we know we're starting with a fanfare.
There ain't no lower ones.
We're tuning the drum.
Ooh, that was nearly. Just a bit, yeah. Close enough. What do you want there? So,
All right, we'll tune before we play, because let's get one, so we don't get this back. So we know we start with a fanfare. And as we look at the beginning, we're looking at through, and it's in 3-bar phrases. That's nice. This will do it in 4. Okay, that fanfare keeps going. We're over on the next page. And we have the march begins at 9. Again, in the brass, little woodwind fills, and that goes on. We have a very active percussion part. Yum, da-da-dum, 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 boom, bing, da-da-dum, da-da-dum, da-da-dum. We want that underpinning. And brass are featured pretty much through there. Okay, what happens at 17? We have a change of style. Da-da-da-dee, boom, bing. All right, that type of activity, and that goes on for. So it looks like, looking ahead, we have a return to the main theme, right? So what would you call 17? Little interlude. So let's see where I am. All right? I've got a 7-bar introduction, followed by an 8-bar symmetrical theme, 4-bar interlude, a return to the main theme, and then a cadence. The minuendo down into 27, which would be a contrasting more legato section at a soft dynamic. You see the legato melody in the clarinets, and that's going on with a on the pulse accompaniment. Turn the page, that goes on. 35, we enlarge the orchestration by adding the tune in an octave, right? 35. And that's another 8 bars. 43. Looks like we have a return to the first theme, right? The 43 with the brass. We have a recapitulation. And we have an ending. An extended ending, like a little coda, right? All right, so I've got pretty much the form in my head now. Not much music, but at least in my subconscious mind, I have the architecture pretty much set in one view. All right, let's go back to the beginning and look at it in sections, like we did with the other movement. Okay, what kind of harmony do we have? Do we have triadic harmony? Do we have very colorful harmony? What's going on? So do a little harmonic analysis of a few measures just to see what the color of the harmony is. And say, okay, first 2 bars is E flat triad. The next 2, first 2 beats. Next 2 beats is F minor 7. Then back to E flat. And that's repeated. Then the next bar with a little change of contour, and that takes us to a G major chord. So even though we have basically triadic harmony, we have obviously a big shift in tonality from E flat to G major is quite, if you think of your circle of fifths, that's quite a distance around, right? We're going from 3 flats to 1 sharp, so we're a quarter around the circle. So that color changes should be unique on our ears, the shift. If the composer just went from E flat to B flat, that would be very passive modulation, right? 1/5 away or 2/5 away, but you start moving 3, 4, 5/5 away, and we have less common material, therefore the modulation is more striking, or the change in harmony is much striking. So you're setting up possibilities. Now what happens in the next bar? We stay in G major. And a similar relationship, A minor 7, G, and that takes us to over, next page, what do we have there? We have open fifths. We have F concert, B flat concert, and F concert. And underneath those sounding fifths, we have some implied chords. Thirds and sixths, with an F pedal on top, right? Da-da-ding, and that repeats. Da-da-ding, and we have a diminuendo into 9. All right, now we go back to the introduction. What's the overall feeling of the introduction? How would you describe that in one word? The answer is syncopation. The whole fanfare is syncopated, right? Accents on 2 and 4. So it's out of meter on purpose. We want to syncopate it. If it was syncopated, it would be yo dee da da dee. This is yo dee dee yo dee, which gives it a whole different feel with the syncopation. What's the grouping in the woodwinds in 3? Three, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. It's like riding horseback. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Change of contour, change of direction. So far, not only do we have syncopation, but we have the most animated version by contour of the 3 group, right? That's on the animated side. If it was 2, 3, 1, it would be more smooth. So this is do, dee, do. Then that carries forth. Okay, so what do we got in the percussion? Fortepiano in the snare drum. Fortepiano, and then 1 to 9 crescendo. Right? 1 to 9. We have fortepiano and a long, slow developing crescendo. 1 to 9. So we run our students, so we practice our crescendos, diminuendos by beats. We remind how long it is so that whomever is playing the snare drum takes the time. A long evolving crescendo. Don't want to get there too soon. What do we have? We also have the xylophone with the flutes and the piccolo and the upper woodwinds. And we have the timpani is added on to boom, bing, boom, bing, boom, boom. So we have 3 against 2. The timpani and tubas are in half subdivision, and the triplets are 3 subdivision. So we have a conflict, a nice conflict of rhythm there. So, anything else? Let's see. Then we have the fortepiano beginning at a different beat in bar 4. And finally, the snare drum, 3 before 9, begins to introduce the underpinning of the march, right? But not steady. 1. Right? So the composer is introducing the primary element of the accompaniment in fragments early, so the listener sort of can get the feeling of what's coming, and then it goes full blast into the processional march. Okay, you notice that when we have long tones in the conversation, the other elements are active. So the style of the accent in bar 3 is going to be accent and taper, so that the audience can notice both the timpani and the triplets. And you have to remember the audience's ears will stay with the most prominent part. So if we play the dotted half note in the third bar boldly by full sustaining, the audience's ears will stay with that chord and will not, and we want their ears to do the shift to those two parts. So therefore I would make sure in my preparation, these simple things, I would make sure that's a critical moment, that third bar, that chord taper. So the audience can feel the 3 against 2 and the activity. Same thing is going to happen with the brass and the woodwinds in bar 6, huh? Both in the half note in the upper woodwinds and the half note in the trumpets on beat 2, the half note in the upper woodwinds on 3. If they're held boldly, we won't hear the 2-part fanfare. Boom, bing, boom, 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 bing. Where you got third, 5th, 6th, 5th, using the open 5th, like the old French horn 2-part horn calls that combine the open 5th in between 3rds or 6ths. So that's really a paraphrase of a horn call. So that's another delicate moment, isn't it? Sustaining notes must taper in order for us to get the full value of that for 2 bars. Okay? Let's play it. Play a few notes, warm up. Subdivide from the beginning. Here we go. Nice read through. Nice read through. Again, my job is just to give the general indication what's going on. Make sure we have the proper tempo. Everybody's trying to figure out what the music is like. Now we have an idea. Now we go for some detail. All right? Nice staccato, right? Nice balance your triads in the trumpets. 3 parts. 2 parts in the trombones, equally weighted. And we're going for the syncopation. Make the staccato a little lighter. A little more accent on 2 and 4. Here we go. Now, can we play and 2 and 3 and 1 in the duplets in the tuba and euphonium? All right? Play over the pulse. Boom, beep, beep, boom. I don't want to hear boom, beep, boom. I don't want to hear 5 ones. I want to hear 3 2s. Boom, beep, beep, boom. Is that? Can we make the inflection of the 3 1 2 more noticeable? 1 3 1 3 1 3 1 3 1 3 1. Once more. Brass was beautiful. Retain that. Add that dimension there and there and here. Here we go. Beginning. Put your horn in your lap and we're going to conduct that. What did you notice about what I did? I just basically dealt with the detail of the syncopation first. And then I started something and I let it go. And I prepared the next moment. I started that and I let it go. And got my mind on preparing the next gesture. There is a danger with young conductors, you stay with one moment too long. and then you miss the next one. So you got to get used to starting and let go, prepare the next. Start that, let it go. Don't stay with it trying to get too much detail. All right, so you notice we started with light staccato. Yup. And the rebound off the second staccato was this. As soon as I do that, you know there's an accent on 2. So I did ding, ding, da, da, ding, 1, 2, blah, blah. So you have a cue on 2 for the tuba and the timpani in the next bar. So as soon as I get into bar 2, I'm beginning in my mind to prepare the brass to finish the phrase for 1, and then I let it go and give a cue for 2, 2, boom, bing, boom, bing. And that 2, 3, I don't think I really need that at that point. Conduct from the beginning, boom, boom. Rebound off the second quarter, second eighth note. So we prepare the accent. 1, 2, ready, and ding, ding, da, da, ding, da, da, and 1, 2, bing, bing. Same thing, ding. Don't get your mind. Here's a cadence and cue on 2, 2, da da ding, 1, 2, da da ding, 1, da da ding, da da ding, and 1. And then that takes us right into that. Okay, let's look at the next section. The march at 9. Dum, da, dum, da, dum, is the most important part going on there. Dum, da, dum, da, dum, and the triplet goes forward. Da, dum, da, dum, da, dum, and I want it in a 4 meter. Yum, da, dum, da, dum, da, dum, ding, da, dum, ding. I don't want it in a 1 meter. Dum, da, dum, da, dum, 1, 1, 1, 1. I want 1, 2, 3, 4. Yum, da, dum, da, dum, ding, da, ding. The underpinning. The ostinatos are so important that they be musical when you have, whether it be a rhythmic ostinato or a tonal ostinato, because that sets the whole underpinning that we're going to play off of in the 4 meter. Okay? So whomever playing, do the best you can. We don't have a percussionist. What are you going to help us out with that? Do the best you can. Just thinking 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and dum, da dum, da dum, ding, da dum, da dum, ding, and we'll just sit on top of that. And the bass drum's going 1, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's the most important. Underneath the second is that. I know so many. I say I don't know how many times I do festivals, and I talk to the director and say, you know, I know you're struggling to play, but the bass drummer is playing in a 1 meter. So everybody, kids are trying to play, the bass drum's going 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, and he's usually going bang, bang, bang. You know, short stroke. It's a short stroke and playing a 4 meter. 1, 3, 1, 3, 4. Good percussionists can play melodies on the bass drums. Okay, and either use a nice cloth, sheepskin cloth as a dampener, or your knee. I like the cloth on the bass drum. It's about this big, and you just hold it lightly on the head, and you can control the amount of ring, rather than using your knee or your hand on the other head. And I don't know why people don't use that. All professionals do. Why shouldn't kids use that? And if you want to make sure you work on your percussion, take some lessons from a good percussionist. Doesn't take much. You don't need to know a lot. You don't have to learn to play, but you got to know these little tricks, because if the drum rings too much, then you can't get what I just want. You've got to have that cloth right on there, and then control the amount of ring. Here's 9. Looking ahead. So we discussed. We're still doing back to score analysis. Now, is the march theme syncopated? And you say no. We have a change of time. The syncopation is now over. Ding, 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 ding. So we want that half note accent and taper. A lot of us are struggling with that still. Play too bold all the time. And a good question when you prepare your scores is, a good question to ask yourself is, what do I want the audience to hear? In my score preparation, how do I want to design the presentation? And that'll determine the perspective of how you weight the different elements in the piece. To say to yourself, what do I want you all to hear here? I want them to hear the theme, then the meter. We just talked about what the percussion is doing on the underpinning. What's the grouping for the woodwinds? 2-3-1 grouping, isn't it? Different. So we're using a 3-1, 3-1, more animated in the fanfare, and here in the second bar of 9, we're using 2-3-1, 2-3-1, which is a more flowing, less activity. And that's also, the melodies are in that as well. Next page. What happens with the continuation of the bar 5 of that theme? How many bars we got there? 1, 2. We add a French horn call. And it's out of the key, and it's a half step. We should have very attention-getting by the nature of what tones the composer chose. It's going to have a little animation in there, that half step. Okay, I'm prepared for that. And that occurs twice, and then a cadence, right? In the next bar, A flat, B flat written, D flat, E flat concert. Let's play this section. So we're going to start at 9. First sight reading now. You need your part. You need your part. You want to turn page. Okay, you remember our tempo? Ready? Tone, when you hear other activity going on, you must leave room for the other activity. Saxophones were absolutely beautiful on that horn call, right? Except what? We got to the long tone and it was bold for 7 beats. And you should have thrown the ball back to the brass. Do your bit, say, all right, my turn's done, your turn. All right? And we have no signs for this, right? Like you can't put a little inflection thing under every bar. The music would be so cluttered you wouldn't know what to look at. Okay? That principle is very important. It's very nice if you do it once more. You just have good sight reading. Can you match your articulation? Can you match the style? I'm going to take it from your lead player in the trumpets. First, whoever the chair is going to control the amount of taper. You work together as a team. All right, here we go. 9, once more. Some of us are shortening notes. Is there a reason why we're doing it? Not one woodwind held out the half note. 2 things happen on every beat. Something ends and something begins at the same fraction of a second. So on beat 1 of 4B4, 17, if you look at your score, you got your part up, page 4, so that half note in the second bar there ends on beat 1 of the next bar, when the silence begins. And you were all out on the end of 4. So would you check, that's just maybe bad habits. I'm sure you would make sure that you follow the concept. 2 things happen on every beat. Something stops and something starts at the same fraction of a moment. And don't leave early. Now the trumpets are going to separate there because they need to breathe. And the brass, right? Have to breathe at the end of the whole note so that we can start over again. But you go all the way up, not over, but right up to there. And the same thing at 17, bar before in the woodwinds. And the trumpets, then at 17. Don't go out until the downbeat of 17. With a taper, but don't leave early. With those 2 goals in mind, can we do 9? Now we begin to set up good rehearsal techniques. Always a goal. Try one, whenever you stop. We were talking yesterday. this is obviously a teaching situation, but I try professionally with kids to stop as little as possible. Right? I try and fix it with the stick. The only time I stop is when I can't communicate. Either I'm screwing up or they're not watching. One or the other. Then I have to stop. Because as a player, I hate that. Sit there and stop. Somebody keeps talking. Do it with a stick. I can see. Do something. But don't keep stopping and talking. Beat time. Stop and talk. Beat time. That's what we want to avoid. Okay? You don't like it as a player. And when you're up here, players don't like it either. Here we go. 9. With those goals in mind. Thank you. Conduct. Conduct. So you start the first 2 accents at 9 because we've changed from syncopation on the beat. Like I did, you saw me like that. I did ding, da, I did subtle 2 and 4. Dong, and an accent, bounce and wait. Ding, dong, and the 2 and 4 is like a rebound. Ding, dong. There's 2 and 4 there. But one of my ding. Once I do the rebound for the accent, I've given up beat 2. I've used up beat 2 with rebound because that's more important. The same thing with the accent on 3. Once I give the accent rebound, I can't give 4, but only minimally. Okay? So that's what people say, early in the course. You don't give all the beats. No, I give the right ones and toss away what I don't need. Would you do that? Get a feel for ding and bounce. Here we go. And dong, ding, dong, dong. 1. Q, da, da, dee. Now, 1, don't worry about the accent there. Your job is to prepare 1. 1 for the woodwinds. Once you do 1, you know what's coming. Da, da, dee, da, da, da. There's 9, rebound. 1, da, da, dee, dee, da, 1. Da, da, dee, da, da, da. And you need a little bounce there. Bounce. Da, da, dee, da, da, da. Once more for the bounce. 1, there's 9. 1 and 2 and 3. Bounce. Rebound. Dee, da, da, 1, 2. Da, 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 dee. The woodwinds. Da, da, dee, da, da, da. Now accent. 1 and 2, 3, 4, 4. B. So let's look at those bars. You've got a Q on 1. A Q on 3 and a Q on 4 of different kinds. You have a rebound accent for both da-dee-dong and the brass. So it's going to look like this. 1, da-dee-dong, A, da-da-dee, and back in. Here we go. Right on those bars, accent, rebound, and go. 1, da-dee-dong, da-dee, da-da-da, and I'm going to encourage the A flat, B flat in the French horn and saxophone, because I want them to finish that line, because that's different than the bar before. So let's do it again. Rebound. 1, 8, accent, Q, and 1, now 4, 1, 4, 1, da-da-dum, woodwinds, da-da-dee-da-da-dee-dee-da-dum, and then we immediately go from articulated to legato. So let's do bar 16. It's going to be 1, da-da-dee-da. So my end of 2 into 3 is legato, even though they're still playing articulated. So it's 1, da-da-dee-da-dee, da-dee-da-dum. It's too late. It's too late. So you come before. 1, da-da-dee-da-da-dee, da-dee-da. 3. 3, da-dee-da-dum. To conduct that bar. Animated, da-dee-da-da-da. Ready? And da-dee-da-da-Q, da-dee-da-dee. Now, we want a different kind of accent because we're mezzo forte. So we want to bounce. Bounce, Q, bounce, bounce. Bounce for the accent, a lighter bounce for the staccato. Watch. Dee, ba-dee, do, ba-dee, da-da-dee. 1, 2, conduct, and do, do, da-dee, do, da-dee, da-dum. Then come back. Dee, dum, 2 bounces. Dee, dum. Once more, ready? And dee, bounce, dum, dee, bounce, dum, dee, da, 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 legato. Ba, da, da, dee, da, da, dee, Q. Cue, bounce, do that bar, and don't turn the page. So it looks like this, two bounces, and then a really good bounce for the trumpets. So it's dee-da-da-dum, da-da-da-da, dee-da-da-da. I don't care what comes after that. That's all they need is da-da-da. I only have to beat 3 and 4. That says it all completely. And that's all I do in record dates, is sing, just throw cues. I don't have to worry professionally at the beat time. Just throw cues in the style that you want. If I want it lighter, I'll do less. If I want it more, I'll do. Now how to get the beat down. All right? 17. Conduct. Here we go. Start, let go. D, do, D. 1 and 2 and ready and go. D, do, D, D, do, D, 2. The accent of 2. Here comes your cue. Now, and da 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 D and bounce and wait. Da 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 da. Da, 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 da. Don't go on. Just give me the cue now on 3. Da, 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 da. Again. Bounce. Da, 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 da. Now recover. 1, 2. Da, 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 da. Boom. Then you can recover. But see, you've given up 4 in this. You got to just recover to get back to 1. Nothing here. All right, let's talk about 27. What's the first conducting session? 10:30? No, it's 10:30.
After that.
All right, so I'm okay. Oh, it's humid, or is it not me? Okay. Diminuendo into that. All right, let's look at 27, score preparation. What's the harmonic rhythm? Are you all familiar with the term, harmonic rhythm? The frequency of chord change creates its own harmonic rhythm. You put a chord change on every beat, you've got a very active one. You put a chord change on every second bar, you've got a passive one. What's going on here? 2 chords per bar. What's the inflection then? Second note light. Boom, 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 boom. The worst thing you want is dum, 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 ding, right? Second note light. In the meter. 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3. And what's the melody doing? Over the meter. So the accompaniment is in the meter, 2 2s with a second note light. And what kind of melody do we have? Is it a passive? Is it very angular? Does it have wide leaks? You say, yes, very emotional. The wider the leap, the more emotion involved, inherent in the music, without you having to do anything. So we want to prepare the 4th beat, keep the preparation of the leap with the note and its resolution in this case. So the 4th beat at 27 takes you into the downbeat and then the resolution. So that's got to be a 3-note grouping. Certainly the concept is, which we'll get to later in the week, the tension resolution always goes together. The preparation may or may not go with that 2 moments. It depends on the music. There's no rules. In this case, I put the preparation for the leap with them. And we only have 2 elements. What's going on in the percussion? Snare drum's going to do the same thing as the harmonic rhythm. Second note, second and 4th beats light, right? Cymbal's going to do the same thing. Second and 4th beats light. Turn the page, go on. 35, the same thing. We just add octaves to the melody. Not much change in the accompaniment. Let's play this section. Net's okay. Net's okay. Soft. Really soft. Ding, ding, ding. With this feel, right?
22.
The harmonic rhythm. 27. Here we go. And. accompaniment of the melody down. There's two choices. You can either phrase conduct the melody, or as soon as you hear this is not together and the feel isn't right, I started to do this. Let them know. I'll get to them next time. And you know what happened? About 4 bars, we all came together. So if you learn to conduct by conducting, experience, ears. Expectation, I just listen for what music in my head and what doesn't match in you in my playing. And then without, see, I would not have stopped at a regular rehearsal because I already fixed it without stuff. It all came together. Then I go back to here with that. You know what I mean? So you got to, you're all over the place in rehearsal. Try not to stop. As soon as you get it together, you don't have to stop. So what I just did was very poor, other than I'm teaching. Otherwise, I would point out I would not have stopped. Just 27. Thing to go into augmentation, because that melody's in 2 and you're in 4. So while you're going, as soon as I got into here, everything over here became very smooth and very lyrical. But if I kept doing this, then that doesn't relate to that. Once that's all right, all going in augmentation. Yeah, and then when did I go back to 4? Cadence before 35. 1, because you had to change the style, right? We went from separated to legato. And then I would do the same thing coming into 43. All right, let's get the head to the end then. 60, look at the score, page 10. So page 10, 3rd bar, we have a recapitulation of what we did earlier, including the French horn call with the half step. Now we have an extension. So the piece actually ends on the first downbeat of page 11, right? We get a 5-1 cadence in E flat. Trumpet's home bass, right? Chord. What's going on there? A heroic 2 sets of the interval fourth. The fourth, perfect fourth, is a heroic interval. Boom, bing, ba-ding, 2 fourths. Boom, bing, heroic interval. So, following the principle that when we have rising lines, we know the audience is going to hear the high B flat because it's the top of the line. I want to make sure in conducting that is they hear boom, bing. So the lower brass has to overplay the 2 lower notes, and the upper notes take care of themselves. If we don't feature that, then the audience will just hear boom, bing. They will hear the first 2 notes. Boom, bing, da ding. So you got to work on the rising lines. We'll get to this this afternoon. We're going to go through the phrasing guidelines. This is one of the major principles. I'm going to make sure if you have an octave progression, we know we're going to hear this. Want to make sure that we hear the front part of it. Boom, bing, ba ding, da 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 ding. Boom, bing, ba ding. 3 times. The 3rd time we go to the chord. And then probably the trumpets are going to come back in the high woodwinds into the last bar, and I would ask for a natural crescendo. Not an overwhelming one. First of all, we're going to use accent and taper in the trumpets and woodwinds. So we can hear what? Boom, bing, ba-dum, da-da-da-ding, boom, bing, ba-dum, da-da-da-ding. And they're going to back off, and now they're done. The last bar, then we can develop the sonority of the sustaining ding, and go right into the last note. Want to play the ending? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bars from the end. Off the score. Play off the score. Play off the score. You have to open 2 pages, right? 10 and 11s together. So now we're back to do. And I like to sing to the percussionist triple dum, double time. Very nice way to communicate. Rather than try and say ta-ta-ta-ta or something. Just double tom or triple tom. So if you're a woodwind player like I am, I had to learn how to double, I was a flute player, so I could double and triple tom anyway. or I did play flute, I don't know how flute applies. I was a player. All right, so if you can't triple tongue, double tongue, learn to do it and it sings great to the percussionists. Here we go, last thing. Probably should have written crescendo. Okay, I think that was a very nice workout. I hope that these will give you an idea of how you can, what you can do, what types of things to look for when you prepare your etudes now, because they're going to have these kinds of things in it, and what you can do next week. All right. So tomorrow I'll do the third movement, and if there's time, we'll do the whole thing so you'll have it on the tape. But this is the most important part. We don't have to play all of it, right? We already did it in bits and pieces. So, we have the sustained B flat from the two ways. To sustain, when you need a breath, take a breath. Go ahead. In fact, you may do that later. We'll do it later. Well, because it's not his horn, but you got to work. He's got to get the spiders out of it.
It's just like a student curriculum.
So just quickly, there should be
It's
3
not a
drum parts
tutor.
up there with 3 pages.
No,
There's a part up there with
the
2 pages.
Percussion one's only got 2 pages, and it must have a third page separate.